let's go. What's up, chat?
And then now I'm in the state that I created.
I'm bored, so I fired it up. What's happening?
I don't think that.
Just a quick vid. We're gonna talk about sorcery. I want to point out this little game here. Big fan of Slither.io. Can't find it anymore. This is on Discord. It's called Land.io. Do recommend it. The goal is to hit people's tail. You gotta protect your trail.
All right. Well, what do we want to draw?
He's done. You're not taking my shit.
At this point.
Protect the tail.
The question's always yes. Buy more land.
He did. He got it. Oh, so good. And then.
Yeah. You start.
And then let's close this off. So happy to showcase this. Saw XQC play it together. He played Agar.io, I think, which is like the bubbles. I don't get this game. I don't get it. I really wish we could have this snake game. It's more fun.
How's cutting up streams into smaller videos been going on your end?
So here we're watching sorcery.
We stream less.
Don't even know what my title is. What's up? This is Team Covenant. It's so hot in here. We're Team Covenant is selling beta sorcery. If you're interested, I'm considering buying a box because I feel like I didn't buy enough alpha. So considering that,
the number of people getting value out of our time is higher than the amount of time we're having to invest.
If you haven't seen it,
and the energy level, and
this is a trading card game which has a penchant for, I would say, 90s art, maybe 80s art, 90s art, fantasy art, and the artists that are creating this are for a lot of them, if not all, most of them, the original artists who create art for D&D and all this other fun stuff in the 90s, you know, early 2000, etc. It's called Sorcery TCG, so let's get into it. Curiosa.io. You get to see the card in all of its glory. So, pretty pleased. I think this is, at least now, today, the 8th of March. This is probably the best way to see it. Why is it so hot here? It is hot. This has got to be the best way to see it. I think it's just fascinating. You know, the art style. You know, and I don't know what people might see when they look at this or not see, but somebody's put a lot of heart, money, time, resource, passion into making this game. You know, this doesn't just jump out of thin air. Somebody designed this, and the name is Eric Curiosa, I believe. Yes, Eric Erickson. Let's go find out. Sorcery. Eric Curiosa. An Eric's Curiosa game. I could walk you through and watch the trailer. The trailer is fucking insane. It's great. But today's point is the rules. So we're going to talk about the rules. I've been reading the whole thing, what, 30 pages or so, just to really grasp how to play the game. And there's a lot of keywords, right, when you look at this. So we'll be doing this. I don't know what we're doing. I'm nobody. Move on. Fucking anything, whatever. Who cares? Let's look at the cards. Abundance. So when you first read the card, you're like, each affected site provides 1 additional mana. Okay. Well, you know what mana means. Affected site. So the site. So which site is affected by this elite aura of milk and honey? Yeah, I know. Yeah, so you have a few questions. You're like, well, each site. Which site? You're casting an aura. Where? Who? What? So you have to read the rules, you know, to really grasp. And there's a lot of interesting aspects to the rules. If you go to Aura, oh my god, what am I using? Aura. What is this, Google Drive? Get me there! Aura are mostly incorporeal, but lasting manifestations of elemental power. They usually impact a large area within the realm, conferring boons or conditions within their reach. Auras have some key characteristic on their card, which are its name, its mana cost, its elemental threshold, its type line, and its game text box. Okay. Still don't know what. Casting spells, casting auras. When an aura spell is cast, right? This is game rules. It conjures the aura at the intersection of 4 squares, though some specify the border between 2 or even just a single square. At least one of those squares must be a site, which means that it has a site card on its square. You see this square? So let's read it. At least one of those squares must be a site, and so which means that you are conjuring the aura at the intersection of 4 squares, not 4 sites. It doesn't need to be here in the middle. It could be here. It's the intersection of 4 squares, which means your aura could be here, which is less powerful, but you get the chance to put a land. And auras are said to occupy all sites at those squares, affecting them, or other things also located at those sites in some way. So now that we go back here, right, now we understand. Casting this aura on 4 squares, right, provides, and each site provides 1 additional mana. So there is a lot of rules, so I want to get into that. There's a lot of keywords, I would say, in the rules. Let's find more. A unit, right? What is that? And cemetery and spellbook, we get that. Bearers, borrowing, submerge, void walk, strikes first, airborne, spellcaster, genesis, symbols and numbers. What else is there? A minion. Adjacent, ranged, allied, enemies, nearby. So there's a lot of keywords that are similar to each other. Also, like what's adjacent and nearby. And so we want to get into the meat of it. And I think it's most likely going to take more than 1 video to talk about all of this stuff. It's a good read. I do encourage it. It's simple, but it's complex. When you read it, you're like, you have to come back to the words, each word. So I want to particularly go to some keywords that we're all going to face, and I think most mistakes are going to happen on. And I'm not sure how to organize it. No, not sure at all. Let's paint. Let's paint. No, this is really sucky. I can't paint. We're gonna word. Word. Not this word. No, it's fine. This word. Sure. Okay, sure. Okay. So let's word. Let me make some space on my desk here. Wow, is it hot in here? Okay. Bro, what have I been doing? Void. I don't need to know. We well know what fucking void means, and squares and void. So bodies of water and land. So when you put the same, so if it's not a water site, it's a land site. And if it's not a site, it's a spell. These are interesting ways to word things, right? If you put water together, it makes a body of water. And some of them mention the body of water that they are in. So, for example, moving freely in a body of water means that they could go from here to here. I think that's pretty simple. The surface. Okay. Body. Water, land, surface, subsurface, which is underwater or underground. Underwater, underground. The atop and or under, we haven't seen much of that. Atop or under. Oh, jeez. Regions. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the crux of things. So regions is a word that comes up often. I think these other words we kind of grasp them, right? You know, mostly what they are. Region is a little more complex. There's 4 types of region. So void, surface, which we did write already. Underground, we did write already, and underwater. So these are surfaces, regions. Regions. If it's underwater, I don't think it can be underground, but I could be wrong. There is like a dual land that's water ground, so I wonder how that works. I mean, I think it all applies correctly, but that's an interesting example. Void, which is nothing, or a square without a site. All right, so these are the 4 regions, right? Surface, underwater, underground, and void. And these become subsurface, which is not that relevant. You can simply mention it here. Subsurface. Well, everything in this game kind of long. Even their game is long. So I think this might be a longer video. Every time I feel like I can't do anything fast in this environment. So let's read. Most abilities from cards in the realm affect things within the region where the card is located. Most abilities. Most. Similarly, in the case of spells, their effects typically applies to the same region as its spellcaster. However, some cards can affect specific areas, regions, or even the whole realm. So area, I think, refers to the area of effect, which is you've seen it in other cards. I think I'm referring to this. This is an area of effect, or this as well. Each unit above or below a site in the area of effect. I think that's what they mentioned here, by area. More broadly. Regions or even the whole realm, regardless of a card's own region. So let's look at this example here, right? So before we look at examples, what I like to do is note the number, or year even, find 1, and just say, okay, well, what are the attributes of this card? This is the pufferfish. You can read that small and upside down. The porcupine pufferfish, right? So what are its attributes right now? So it's underground, or in this case, subsurface. It's actually underwater, not underground, because this is a water site. We can see the little blue triangle here. And it is, do we say in relation to the king? Where's the king? No, okay. So it's just a detailing of the areas. Okay, sure. We'll come back to the king further. And that's what it says. It's underground. Underwater, region under the site is its square. 2, that's the headless haunt. It's in the void region. 3, the cave troll is underground because this is a land site. So it's not water, so it's land. And in this case, I believe it's earth or something like that. Underground, under a region, under the site in its square. 4, I mean, before we get to 4, 1 and 3 are not in the same region anyways. They're not, because this one is underground, this one is underwater. And they can't attack each other, I believe, in that sense. Because they're not in this, well, they're not in the same space. But most abilities would be in the same region. So there's a good chance they can't touch each other in any way. For this sea serpent is surface or atop the site. Must be a water site. It does say water above the 4. And it can submerge, and it's water bound. What it says here. So submerge means it can go under, just like bury. And waterbound means it's disabled if it's not on water. Okay. And well, what does it say? 4 and 5 occupy surface region atop the site. They're square. Hey, I need some fucking air in here, man. It's so fucking. 6, the king is atop the site. Oh. Here and there. Some cards refer to here and there contextually. I don't think that's a big deal. Here and there. Regions are done. We're just starting. Targeting. Sometimes you need to target stuff. Spells and abilities can only target things within the spellcaster or referencing cards' same region. Okay. That's in the rule book. It doesn't mention it on the card. So if you have your spellcaster, you want to cast a spell. You're shooting arrows or fucking magic or something. And it targets. It has to be in the same region. Right? Which is simple. It can't be, it could be in the air, but it can't be underground if you're on the surface. It can't be underwater if you're on the surface. It can't be in the void if you're in the surface. And etc. Nearby. Adjacent. Adjacent. So that's also an important concept, and it gets more complicated. So adjacent, you've already heard that in math class. It means next to, right? Refers to the card's own square and the square that it shares a border with a border. So from this side, they say, how do they say that? They say above, below, left and right, I believe, and its own square. So that's interesting. So the square here is adjacent to itself. And for nearby, that's a little more broad, right? We get that it's within this 9. And the square itself is nearby to itself, as per the definitions. Okay, simple. Let's rock. Let's start rocking. Only locations that are in the same region as the referencing card. We bring you right here, Chad. Locations that are in the same region as the referencing card or its spellcasters are considered adjacent or nearby locations. Let me repeat that. Only locations. What's a location anyway? A site? What's a location? Let's find out. The exact location of a card is determined by its square and by the region that it occupies. Its location, when you locate, is determined by its square and the region. Okay. It's a little vague, but it's a little up there for now. But only locations that are in the same region as the referencing card are considered nearby or adjacent. We talked about referencing card here in targeting, right? And it's basically saying that it's not respecting this. Wow. It's not respecting this if it's not in the same region. Meaning, the Headless Haunt, which is in the Void, is not in the same region as the King. And fourth, well, that's it. So what this is, yeah, that's all it's saying. So it's now putting a little asterisk. So regions supersede what's nearby and adjacent to them. Let's move this aside. We're using structures to determine what we're seeing here. So first thing, region. Is it in the same region? No, then fuck everything else. You know, and that's the kind of idea and structure of idea that we're trying to develop. So let's talk about the King. This is a good example. One, the King. Let's talk about it. What's... Can you hear me? Okay. What's describing the King? You can pause the video, just think. Use these words. Can't see anything, chat? There, just say it. Boom. Right, so what's describing the King? The King is atop a body of earth, which I think it's earth, right? It's on the surface level, and the region of the surface, yes. Okay, what else? These things are somewhat nearby, possibly, maybe, but we'll get to them when we talk about them. So it's just the King. So what about the King? The King is beset by all enemies on all sides. Some pose a greater threat than others. Let's take a look. Okay. 2. The Sea Serpent. Talk to me about the Sea Serpent and its relationship to the King. So the Sea Serpent is on the surface level of a water site. Being in the surface as the King, it's in the same region. And What else? Nearby. Adjacent. It's adjacent to the king. Man, I'm so tired of talking, man. I wish I could just do one job, man. So, the sea serpent is adjacent to the king, which is nearby as well. Yeah. So let's see. The king is adjacent to the sea serpent because it's next to him on the surface of the site, therefore the same region. Similarly, the Diluvian Kraken is nearby the king. Bitch, I'm not there yet. So it's the Diluvian Kraken is at the surface of the water site. They're adjacent to the sea serpent, nearby to the king, because they're all surface. And if you take a second and read the cards, right? The sea serpent, for example, submerge and is waterbound. The sea serpent, even though it's close to the king, is not a threat to the king because it doesn't have any ranged, well, you know, range isn't the right word in this game, but it can't attack the king. I like this better. It can't attack the king because it's bound on water. If it moves to attack the king, it's disabled. I'm not sure if it does that in one swing. We still have to read. But the Kraken is much more of a threat to the king because it can submerge as well. And it can tap, has an ability tap surface to strike each other unit nearby. So it would strike each other unit nearby. So nearby again is corner as well. Can strike the king. Not an attack. During the attacks they strike, this is simply a strike. Now it does say surface to strike. So that tells me at least that you have to submerge it. But then have it use its ability to tap to surface to strike all of the units. By the way, it says each other unit and not each allied or enemy unit, right? So it does strike its own units, which is not fantastic. These guys are still playing. So 3. Nearby the king. 4. Who's 4? Hauntless Haunt. But the Hauntless Haunt, as I've peeked, it's not nearby the king. It's in the void. It would be adjacent to the king, but because it's a different region, right? King is surface, Haunt is void, then they are not adjacent or nearby. And therefore, I have to read the attack rules again, but it would have to move to attack, I suppose. Anyways, it doesn't seem to change much. But if the king would like to strike this with a spell or something, even though it's not a spellcaster, it couldn't. It's not in the same region. 5, the Cave Troll. Now let's just read 4. It's in void. Okay, Cave Troll is under the humble village, and so it's buried because it has borrowing. It's still alive, and it would be adjacent to the king, but it's not in the same region because this is surface and this is underground, and so it is not nearby or adjacent to the king. It cannot be targeted by spells from the king or things like that. Man, I'm so tired of talking. Holy shit. How can I do my job if I've talked all day? I'm on the phone all day. Porcupine Puffer 6 is underwater. And what does it say anyway? Under toe. I don't know. And it is not in the same region as the king. Is neither in the same region as the cave troll. Most likely would not be affected by spells or abilities from the cave troll or the king. Yeah. Not adjacent, indeed. Not adjacent. Either. Let's keep looking. Okay, so where are we now? Are we done with that part? That's it? It's that simple? That's it. Video's over. Are you serious? Main phase, summoning sickness, activated abilities, moving your unit. You may order units to move to a location within its range of motion, allowing it to take steps diagonally or even in 2 different regions. Right, so let's read about move. When moving a unit, its journey is broken down into individuals movement steps. Normally 1 step, some ability additional steps, some modify steps, allowing it to take some modify what a unit step is, allowing it to take steps diagonally or even into different regions. Right. Anywhere a card is allowed to move legally is considered within its range of motion. It's still not completely clear to me how you're supposed to enter a different region. You can't enter the void, I know that, unless you have void walk. I guess you can enter a land site. Attack. It's pretty simple stuff. Different abilities names, glossaries, projectile. Right, so here we see an example of how these words become important. Projectiles move in a cardinal direction, which is above, front, rear, left, and right. Okay. A projectile's flight begins at the caster's or his unit location or on another adjacent location in the chosen cardinal direction. It travels within the same region as the unit or caster that fired it until it either can't move further or it hits the first unit that it comes into contact with, then does damage, blah, blah, blah. So here we have an example. And it does say region, right? So very simply, the lava salamander is a fire spellcaster. And so you can cast a spell from its location rather than your avatar location, which is a spellcaster. And this spell says shoot 3 projectiles in the same direction, 1 at a time, each dealing 1 damage. So it's going to do that and throw them at the right. The salamander, the first one crosses over Cave Troll. Cave Troll is not in the same region as everyone else, which is on the surface. And then hits a location where 2 units stand. And the caster chooses, or the controller of the spell, I'm not sure, chooses which unit it will strike. And so the first one is strikes the opponent's house, Arn, Bannerman. And then it takes a damage. And then the second projectile crosses over the cave trolls. And again strikes in the same location, choosing the Bannerman. The Bannerman has 2 power, so it dies after -1/-1. And then the third projectile is fired into this location as well, crossing over the cave trolls. And has to strike its next possible target, which is your own cell sword. So it has to mark it with the damage. Simply put, it used to be more complicated, and there used to be more words. You see, I think I'm gonna try to find them while we're here. If I can't, we'll call it a day. We'll come back another day. Come on. It was like 15 words yesterday. Everything about this video sucks right now for me, in my opinion, man. Bro, what is this? Let me... What? There's no technical difficulty. What do you mean? Sorcery. Okay, maybe that's all it is. I don't know. If I come up with something else, I'll consider it. Let's stop for a moment. I'm gonna come back and read the cards if I have any voice left. What can I do? What can I do?